Welcome to another episode of the Points of Experience podcast. I'm your host, Paul Castro Jr. Once again, we are working at a time where taxes are approaching an end, and that allows Joe to be consumed with work at the time at which we had done this interview. We have one of the best guests I could ever have imagined. It is an unbelievable delight that we got to interview Cristina Vee today. If you don't know Cristina, for the two of you in the world who don't know who Cristina is, she has worked on every single thing you can imagine. I told this to her in the interview, but it'd be easier for me to name something she hasn't worked, or it'd be easier for me to say, or no, it'd be harder for me to say a title she hasn't worked on for me to find one that she has. I don't know the way I said it. I said it good in the interview, so listen to it then. Kilo Woman Hunter x Hunter, League of Legends, Tales of Beseria, Octopath Traveler, One Punch Man, You're Lying, April Kill a Kill, One Piece, Drakengard, so many things, the Fate series, Fire Emblem, Devilman Crybaby, Children of the Whales, Comey Can't Communicate. It's just the list goes on and on. She worked on Belle with me, not with me. I think she was also in High Rise Invasion with me. I think she also might have done work on Neo with me. I don't think there's a title I've worked on in this industry that she hasn't worked on. She is a national treasure. She's on the Mount Rushmore of voice actors in this industry. I truly, truly, truly believe that. Working on over 200 titles. Let's not talk about the episodes. Marionette in Miraculous Ladybug. There was so much we didn't get to talk about. Bennett in Genshin Impact and Xingqiu. We didn't get to talk as much as I would love to about Miraculous and Genshin, and even My Hero Academia, where she plays Pino. But that just goes to show you how much in depth we went into her and her career and her life. We do talk about, her process, auditioning, working with directors, finding the character voices, her start in her career and dealing with some of her own challenges that had given her the confidence to continue pursuing this at such a young age, her musical covers. The list goes on and on. If you are a fan of anime dubs, video game English adaptations, or pursuing a career in voiceover, this is definitely an episode you do not want to miss. She's an inspiration to me and always has been. And I think if there is anybody who you can learn from, just honest willpower, dedication, and love of the sport of voice acting, it's her and her journey to get to where she is today as one of the best in the business. So stay tuned for Cristina Vee. So who is your special friend right there?
This is my child, Peach.
Peach?
Peach. Well,
I love it.
His name is Peach, which was just the sound that came out when I met him. But it turns out that Peach, like Peachy, is like Turkish for like kitty. So I'm tapped into something. I'm tapped in.
Wow, that's you had the telekinetic connection to
Turkey.
maybe the cat has maybe they're part Turkish.
Maybe he is Turkish. Maybe that's where he was from last time.
Yeah, right. See, my cats, I have 4 cats. You have only 1 cat?
Yes. But my roommate had 2 cats, but she moved out and she took them with. So I can tell he's kind of feeling it. Like he's lost weight. He's been sleeping a lot, so I'm just trying to give him extra love as he adjusts.
Yeah, kitties sometimes. Well, I have one cat that definitely loves being a solo cat and is spiteful to me because she wants to be the queen who rules everything and us. So, their names have evolved from. I'll give you the quick lowdown because this is the most important part of any podcast interview, right? Is getting to know each other's cats.
Yes.
I have Luna, Sasuke,
what?
Jorah, and Kairi. And
we have anime cats!
Yes, they're all anime cats.
Oh my god!
So Sasuke's name has evolved into Moch, and that took a very long evolution from like Monkey to Muku but now the name is Moch now. Luna has become Gito, which evolved from like Luna, Bella, B2, Beat, Geet. So that went that way. Jorah is just Ging because that's the sound he makes when he like meows. And Kairi, we call her Fluffball.
Aww.
So she got the short end of the stick because she's just a fluffball.
That's so adorable.
I
love that for
huge...
cats. I would love to get.
I could not do another one though because they are a handful.
Yeah. I mean, you should see my furniture. It's all like covered. Every inch is covered because otherwise you're going to scratch up a new sofa.
Yes. We had to just do that. We had to cat-proof the couch, and also only one of my cats gets studio privileges because the other ones like to cause chaos and they don't know how to sit still when I'm recording.
The first day I set up the studio bricks, he jumped in and just clawed it. I don't know if you can see. Look. Maybe you can't really tell, but there are like some chunks. There are some chunks taken out here from him, like day one. So I have to keep him under strict studio supervision. But he can't.
You're not alone.
Yeah. He's just a little.
My panels.
Yeah.
All frayed.
Yeah. Which is the name
thank
of my
you
dog.
so much. What did you say? Moch is the name of your dog?
Frey.
Oh, Frey.
I have a dog.
Frey, okay.
Little Frey.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody, this is Cristina Vee. For those of you who don't know, I'm gonna do the short little list here of the hundreds of titles you've worked on. Hunter x Hunter, Seven Deadly Sins, Kill la Kill, Bleach, Sailor Moon, League of Legends, Street Fighter, Tales of Beseria, Octopath Traveler, Genshin Impact. It goes on and on and on. I've been a fan of yours for so long. Hunter x Hunter is one of my favorite animes of all time, and it was one of the most grueling processes one of my friends had to get me into watching it because it was, at first I was like, I don't want to, the first episode I was like, I don't know if this is an anime for me. I was like, it seemed, you know, presumably from the first episode, I was like, this seems just kind of like very kiddie in a way, not for me. Because it wasn't something that, based off of the things that I was watching, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And then once I got past the first few episodes, I was like, all right, I'm getting into it. But the second Killua came onto the screen, and I learned about his family history, that they had this character who was like an assassin but didn't really want to be, and this whole... It was one of the coolest characters, and definitely in terms of dubbing was like a huge inspiration for me to want to do more of that work. Obviously, I had been acting at the time, but honestly, so much kudos to you, and we'll get into that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
But the compliment does not come with any fabrication. I promise you that.
Thank you.
And I'm not the only one here who agrees with me on that. I mean... unfortunately, my co-host who couldn't be here today, Joe, he's also a huge fan. Juan, huge fan. Keith as well. So you're in great company.
Thank you.
So I want to definitely start, and I know you've talked about this a bunch of times, but on this show, what I try to do here differently than other podcasts is really kind of get into the finite details of people's careers and find moments to hopefully create kind of a learning experience, if we can, for things. So it's kind of impossible to do that without going through a bit of your start and, you know, how you got into the business. I know we've talked about it a bit, so we'll get into a little bit of that. But, you know, I want to get into definitely the juicier, finer details of things.
Oh,
but,
sure. I got lots of juicy details. That's for sure.
Good. I love how he's just like, I am here for the pure comfort, the ride. I'm here. I'll take all of it.
This is him all the time. He's my special boy. He's so
I'm so jealous.
Sweet. Yeah,
None of my cats will do that.
I've never like had a segue. I've never had like a connection with an animal like him. Like I love my dog, of course, but he and I, like, he's so in tune with me. Like it's crazy. Like I can
tell.
Yeah, I'm so lucky I have him. He's a good boy.
Oh gosh,
You know.
that is so adorable. So let's talk about let's go back to that time where you didn't have a connection with animals when you were growing up. You grew up in California, correct?
Yes. You know where Compton is?
Yes.
Just a little bit east of Compton.
Okay. And that's where you stayed, presumably throughout your entire adolescence up until you went out on your own?
Yeah, I stayed there until I moved out to college, but that was in Long Beach. So Norwalk to Long Beach, and then back to Norwalk when I was out of college. Yeah, so
Yeah.
and even though it's close, it feels like a million miles away from like Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Was that a Sneaky Bell reference right there, or is that just you saying that?
A million miles away? You know what? It wasn't intentional, but I've been listening to that soundtrack a lot. So probably is just ingrained now in my subconscious.
Well, that's probably why, because I also listen to it a lot too, and my
It's
fiance
so
is always listening to it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, great, and you are phenomenal in it, of course.
How come
yeah.
Beast didn't get a song? Beast needed a song.
You know, that's funny. You know, maybe I'll have to do like you, and we'll get to this too, a cover of one of the Bell songs. That would be fun, huh? Would that be funny?
Do it.
I'll have to get your experience as we talk about this on how to do a successful
you got it.
Cover of something. So what about high school or even prior to high school? You were a fan of like anime, video games, animations. What was Christina's interests kind of growing up? Because I know you always kind of wanted to get into this business. Was this kind of you were surrounding yourself with anime even at a young age?
So my earliest experience with anime was Sailor Moon, and I was honestly a little scared of it when I first saw it when I was 7 years old, I think I was, because it was a scary episode that my little brother, who was much younger than me, was like, "You should watch this show with me," and it was like it's really scary doll. It's supposed to be scary, but I was like, "This is so scary. I've never seen anything like this." But we watched it every morning. And I became the Sailor Moon girl at school. And then Pokemon happened when I was in 6th grade. And then I was the Pokemon girl in middle school. I was very, very like kind of skinny, nerdy girl who loved Sailor Moon and Pokemon. And then in middle school, somebody in band gave me a VHS tape. She's like, "Oh, you like Sailor Moon and Pokemon? Well, you need to watch this VHS tape." And on that tape was episodes of Ranma 1/2, Revolutionary Girl Utena, and Gunbuster. Oh, and Tenchi Muyo. And that's how I first started falling in love with anime.
So it was obviously you wound up fulfilling that kind of Sailor Moon prophecy as the years go on.
Crazy, yeah.
That is, and I have a similar kind of, not to the same degree, but similar experience with that type of stuff happening. But what about, so you were in band, you were playing an instrument at the time?
I played drums. I was playing drums, I think I played it for 10 years, like in bands straight, and then kind of just petered off after college. But
yeah, it was trumpet for me, which didn't last very long. I left my instrument in the band room and never went back to get it.
Oh no, yeah, it just became so hard to practice drums. Like nobody wanted it. Not my parents, not my roommates, and I was like, I guess I can't do this. Like even the tapping on the pad, like people were like, "You're driving me crazy." I'm like, oh.
It's definitely one of the more inconvenient instruments because it's one of the loudest, and in order to practice it, you kind of need like the full kit if you want to go to the extents, and that's not only very pricey, but that's even louder.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you or maybe your parents who didn't want you to continue pursuing it. Where did acting come into play? You were doing high school theater?
So I didn't make the softball team. And but I was getting into voice acting, but I was really shy. I was so shy. So me gravitating toward theater was something that happened only because I didn't make it in sports. But at that time I was already kind of like I wanted to be a voice actor. And I was doing stuff like on the internet, like very rudimentally, like crude, like early days of fan dubbing stuff. But I started doing theater in high school and I loved it. And even though I wasn't good at it, I was really good like at writing. Like I was a great writer. and I was like pretty good. I was like probably top drummer at my school at one point. But that wasn't what I loved. I wanted to pursue acting. So even though like I was like even going into college, I feel like I was still pretty green and new. And because I, you know, at that, if you're going to school for theater, like a lot of these kids have been doing it like their whole lives. But I just took that leap, and it was challenging for sure because I was really just green and didn't really know what I was doing, but I stuck with it.
So for you, it was voice acting specifically, though, right? So when voice acting, okay, I want to learn acting to help my voice acting. Where did you make that connection for voice acting? Like, was there a specific moment where you're like, I'm seeing a character on screen, I want to be the voice of that character? Was there a specific moment that happened?
Yes, I remember it exactly. I downloaded a .mov of Eternal Sailor Moon from the internet. And that was the first time I'd ever heard it in Japanese, and I was about 12 years old. And then I noticed, like, wait, the animation's the same. And I don't know where my brain didn't connect it before then, but I was like, wait, if I say the words, the English words, they match up with the Japanese animation. Like, oh, this is a job. I don't know. Before then, it didn't really click. I just thought, like, I don't know. But that was the moment where it clicked for me, like, oh my gosh, this is somebody's job. And I want to be like those, the actors I heard on the original dub of Sailor Moon, because I have just such fond memories of that show.
Wow, it was kind of a similar thing for me, and in the same way, I was so obsessed with video games and anime, and I've told this story a bunch of times, but I wound up in college finding an intro to theater class because I was hated doing the pre-med path I was going down.
Oh, wow.
And I wound up talking to the teacher, the drama teacher at the school I went to, and I was like, I want to kind of get into voice acting. And he was like, well, first you got to learn how to act. And then I wound up finding theater and everything else I've done since then. But I was such a big fan of Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and obviously every video game. And at the time, when I was growing up and really obsessed with video games, there wasn't a ton of dubbing being done in video games. It was primarily just kind of text and speech, and very few games had the liberty of adding dialogue to it, let alone English adaptations. Was that also something for you that you kind of recognized that this was a very niche career at the time, and it wasn't like this booming industry that it is right now?
I don't know if I was very like, I'm going to do this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And when I started getting into it after I got my first audition, the studio head was like, just like, I hope you know, like, this is like, the chocolate factory, like, only a few people get a golden ticket and you have one. And I was like, oh, okay. I got to keep working hard then.
Yeah. So before you got to that first opportunity, you wound up doing, from what I recall reading, an audition at Anime Expo. Is that correct? When you were 14? When
I was 14. My first time acting in front of like an audience, really. I just picked a monologue and I did my best. And I'm sure it was awful. And I hope nobody has recorded it, but I tried. And I got some feedback, and I was like, okay, well, they didn't hate me, so I'm going to keep on trying. So then I think next year, goodness, I kept practicing, and then I did a different kind of audition, which was like a dubbing. Like, it wasn't even an audition. They had like a dubbing setup at a panel. Bang Zoom did. And I was able to go up, and I just kind of nailed it because I'd been practicing and I'd been doing it online. And they're like, we want you to come audition for us for real. Like, we would love you to do that. And I was a little baby teenager, and I was so excited and nervous. And they let me read for a really big show, for a really big character. And they were really sweet. They gave me feedback like, hey, you didn't book this part, but we want to let you know that we're going to keep calling you in. Like, we think that you're great. And that's how it was. Like, they really took a chance on me. And for a couple of years, too, Tony Oliver, I'll never forget, like, pulled me aside one day after, like, a Walla session, because I was doing just a bunch of Walla at the time. And he was like, hey, like, I think that you're great. I can see you have the drive for this and the passion. And he was like, I just want you to work on, you have kind of an accent. And so just work on that for me. And I was like, okay, cool. And I took that really seriously. And I worked it out. And the accent, you know, I grew up in a primarily Hispanic community. So that was definitely part of it. And some of that, you know, never went away, and I don't want it to. And I think that people see that now. They're like, I recognize that voice. Like, her voice is really distinct. And I'm like, it's because of where I grew up. And I never want that to go away. You know, obviously some things I had to work on, like my diction was pretty, like, slurry, you know, things like that, like normal voice acting problems. But I wanted to keep now, like, I really treasure and value the differences that my voice has.
Same thing with me. I grew up in Brooklyn, and that was kind of one of the earliest feedbacks I remember ever getting acting was, I remember when I was in college and I just started acting, someone said, did you grow up around here? And I remember that sticking in my head and being like, oh, the way I speak, if I'm creating a character, they're all sounding now like they are coming from New York or Brooklyn. I didn't want to be limited by that. And so I worked on trying to, you know, still be able to retain that, like you're saying, but also have the ability to not if the character doesn't call for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And also going back, I will let you know, I did try to look for that monologue of yours, and I did so unsuccessfully. I tried going back and finding footage of anime expos years past, and I couldn't, so I think you're safe if you're...
I'm glad, honestly, because I don't know, I listened to one of my early voice acting clips, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I kept on going and working on this. But I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Like, you don't have to start off good. You could start off being terrible and still, like, you could still, and then it's just great because it's just a muscle that you work on. And if you work on things long enough, put in your, 10,000 hours. I think they say it takes 11
Malcolm
years
Gladwell.
to master something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can master it. You don't have to grow up with, you know, an actor family or connections or money or any of those things that, you know, it could make it easier. It's possible just to work really, really hard.
And I know from listening to your story from other people and researching you, that is something I really admire about you and your career, and why I really do. I'm going to give you a lot of compliments throughout this, so just please be prepared for that. I really do consider you one of kind of the, like, paramount faces of the voice acting world at this point in time. Obviously, there's people who've been doing this for, 50 years, people like, Rob Paulson and Fred Tatasciore, people like that, but we're relatively close in age, and you've been doing this for so long, and you've worked on so many titles and so many prolific titles. It's probably harder for me to name a title you haven't been a part of than it is for me to not. So I just really think everything that you're doing in terms of what you bring to your characters, the talent that you've created over the years, it's helpful for everybody trying to get into this industry, because it creates a caliber and a standard that is washing away the stigma that existed for so long, where it's like, we don't watch anime in English, it's not good. And when we have really talented actors like yourself constantly working really hard at every little thing, and I remember seeing, again, jumping ahead a little bit, your performance in Tales of Beseria, I was like, whoa. Like, even right from the get-go, you're just like, you're in it. And I want to talk a little bit about that in a bit, but just the commitment you have to your characters is profound. Taking a step back again really quickly, 14-year-old you, where do you find out about this opportunity at Anime Expo? Do you remember that whole process of, like...
I remember!
Yeah?
It was the first Bang Zoom panel ever. listen,
Yeah.
this was all fate. And I was with some friends, but particularly a friend named Roy Pitts. And I'm smiling because I have such fond, great memories with him. I think he's like, or he is or was like a casting director now for Blizzard. Yeah, so he's done well on his own. But Roy Pitts, I attribute my career to that man because when Wendy Lee was asking for volunteers, he has the loudest, most boisterous voice, and he screamed, "Choose her! Choose this one right here!" And they're like, "Okay, well." Because me and my little mousy self, I would have never been chosen. Roy, like, I haven't talked to him for years, but I think, like, a couple years ago, I'm like, I attribute my career to this man for going to bat for me and being the loudest in the room and getting me that opportunity. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's so funny how you know, all in the timing sometimes, right people, right circumstances, surrounding yourself with the right people. That's amazing. But again, you had to have been doing the things in order for you to capitalize on that opportunity when you were up on that stage in front of all these people in probably a circumstance you had never experienced before. I think innate talent has a lot to do with that.
I don't know if anybody else has talked about the voice acting forums of the early 2000s.
Not necessarily. We interviewed Sung Won Cho. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his work, but he wound up doing a Tumblr in 2012. Every day he did a voiceover clip, which is kind of reminiscent of those forums, but different in a way. I know the fan dubs was a big thing, and I'm assuming that's what you contributed to or acted on in your early days.
Yes, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know if they want it to be known, but a lot of the major players right now, like, we all grew up on that forum together. We all just wanted to be voice actors. We all gave each other, like, long-winded critiques. I think your performance of this line at this time, things like that. But yeah, that was the most exciting thing in the world, to do a fan dub and then to have, like, the person mix it all together, and it's like, oh, it's my voice. Oh my God, I'm an anime character. I'm a video game character.
And that's what I think is so helpful for people right now trying to start out, because I think a question that most people have is like, how do I get started? That's like the overarching super objective, as an actor term would say, of most people, is how do I get started? And it's different today than it was 5 years ago. So I think with social media, I'm sure there's that fan dub work ethic or ideology with making things on YouTube, or even just creating your own work in whatever way possible. Getting behind the microphone and recording yourself and hearing it and adjusting and finding different ways to fine-tune your own instrument is so paramount to getting started. And that's I didn't do fan dubs necessarily, but I recorded so many voices into just like my microphone before I even got started doing this, and they are terribly embarrassing. If I ever find it, I will release it, because like you're saying earlier, I was not talented. I worked really hard, and if anything, that's my superpower, is the ability to endure the pain of seeing bad and wanting it to be better. So it's crazy that you went through this journey with these fan dubs, and that eventually moved you to, like, okay, I did this thing for Bang Zoom. You're already working for them at this time. They've given you these audition opportunities, but you still said, I still want to go to college while I'm auditioning and pursuing work. Was that the inspiration for that?
I think I was always just like, that was kind of the assumption always in my life, like, okay, this is the next step, is college. I didn't know it was going to be for theater, and that was challenging. Let me tell you how challenging my theater days were.
Why?
Because there's a lot of reasons, and not all of it is because of school, but I had to take a lot of time off of school because at that point in my life, I was getting, like, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I was getting, like, massive panic attacks, like, all day, every day. So I was doing that, and I was working, like, even at one point when I was having those, like, massive panic attacks, I got my first lead role in an anime. So I was doing a lot. I was juggling like trying to go to school, and I missed a lot of school because of that, and because I had jobs. And so that point in my life, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Like I was doing so much while dealing with so much. And in a way, like the voice acting really helped me because it just showed me like I can focus, like I can do this if I just put my mind to it. So I would, even though I was having these panic attacks, I was recording the lead. Oh, I was recording the lead on 2 shows at that time. I was a teenager. And when I was in the booth, it's like, okay, Cristina, like, this is time. This is your dream. This is what you wanted, and you're not going to let it stop you. Like, whatever's happening, like, up there, whatever, like, is going on, it really taught me, like, at a young age, like, it's really difficult, of course, like, going through things like depression, anxiety, panic attacks. But I really learned, like, I can control this. Like, it doesn't have to control me, and it doesn't have to stop me from achieving my dreams. And I think that's something I don't talk about a whole lot, but that's been kind of the overarching thing is like, you have obstacles. Sometimes they are external. Sometimes there are things like that. And it's just kind of learning to work with what you have and know, like, this is everything that you go through it's part of what makes you you. And learning how to use those emotions and channeling them into my work was so helpful. It's still so healing. And that brings me to Tales of Beseria, where I finally, like, at that point, like, I had some great roles in the past, but that one was the first time where I felt like I can use this side of me that I've been keeping in, and I gave it. I put everything I had into that character, into that role. Like, I left nothing on nothing in reserve. Like, I felt like this is the opportunity for me to show, like, this is who I am, this is what I can give. And I was really lucky that I have roles like that let me do that. I feel like it's pretty rare, because we do a lot of work, and sometimes just like one session for a game or for an anime, and it's great that you get to do that. But then there's just every once in a while those roles come in where you can really like dig into,
theater in a way. And first of all, just thank you for sharing that, because I think it's very important that people have not everybody who is at the most successful part, they didn't just hatch from an egg and then handed these things and didn't go through their own struggles. And I've been there myself, dealing with insane and deep anxiety, depression, and it's being able to overcome that and navigate it and channel, whatever it is you're going through. Is it's super nurturing in a way to hear that, you were able to create this amazing career despite your own challenges and finding your own solutions to that. So I appreciate you sharing that right now. Hey, voice actors, just wanted to take a quick second from this episode to let you know about an amazing opportunity we have for Points of Experience listeners. We've teamed up with voice123.com to get you all 15% off their premium membership, starting with the $3.95 tier. Now, they also offer a free membership where you can check it out and see what they're about. But with the paid memberships, you're going to get access to more auditions. You're going to get your auditions faster. You're going to get better support. You can upload more samples. All of that is going to be available with the paid memberships. I've used it before in my career, and I've curated my own client list that I've still worked with today. I started making money. It's also a great opportunity for you to take a portfolio of this paid work and present it to agents or managers and say, hey, look, I'm professional, I'm bookable, I've made money doing this, and here are the jobs that I did it on in TV, radio, commercial, video games, animation. They have it all at Voice123. So go to voice123.com/plans/POX, and you're going to get 15% off their paid memberships if you are a first-time premium package buyer or looking to upgrade into a higher tier that you've never purchased before. I promise you, it's a great place to start working. So check it out and start booking today.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people who are, especially right now in this world, extremely difficult times. A lot of young people who are, a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this interested in voice acting, or any part of the video game, anime nerdy world, like it's comforting to hear like you can chase your dreams and work really hard despite whatever challenges you might be personally dealing with. So
Yeah.
on that, but yes, with Tales of Berseria, it is, and again, you like you were saying, you get these small moments usually on games, and very rarely. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I wound up watching because when you get busy, it's hard to play every single game in the world. I wound up watching, this was years ago, because I'm a huge one of my favorite games ever is Tales of Symphonia. That was one of the first games I ever played on GameCube, and I fell in love with the Tales series. I wound up watching the Tales of Berseria game, all the cutscenes. Have you ever done this? Watch the cutscenes of games?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The Tales of Berseria is like over 10 hours long. It's a 10-hour long movie of you.
It is?
Yes, it is a 10-hour long movie. This is just the cutscenes, not even like, any of the other extraneous stuff you had to record probably for battle efforts and reactions and things like that. So it's a 10-hour long movie, and it is so good. And that's why I fell in love with most of these games and stories, is because they're so deep. The lessons and the trials and the tribulations these characters go through, and then on top of that, to have an actor who is committing and bearing their soul into, especially in Velvet's scenario, like the darkness that you have to go through and the pain. Oh my gosh, if like in another, and I truly mean this, obviously the Japanese performance of the game exists, but I played it in English, and I think a majority of the people here on the West probably did as well. Without your performance, that game is not the same. That character does not have the same impact. It does not. It doesn't. And it's something that, things like that have influenced me in my career. I remember definitely thinking that the first opportunity to have that long stretch of a thing was on Neo for me, where you're in for 20 some odd sessions and you're like, okay, that last session, I wasn't connecting with this. I really need to focus now. And, I'm sure this was for you. Do you often get a lot of material beforehand, or are you like walking into the room and then that's what you're seeing?
Walk in cold. I don't know. I can't think of the last project. Well, I was on a game last week that sent me the script, but even then, like, you know how it is, like, I only got my lines. Yeah. And I'm like, it's not really helpful for me. Oops. It's not really helpful for me to go through these because I need the context. I need, obviously, the cutscenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no preparation, really. It's like, okay, this is what I did in the audition. Now let's take it scene by scene. And, luckily you have the director who does know. Like, Wendy Lee was the director on that, and she obviously knows, what was going on and was able to guide me through it. So a lot of it's her, too.
Can you talk a little bit about, because I think this is going to be super interesting, and we haven't really talked about this with anyone yet. Yes. Do you have kind of a ritual or a preparation? Like, can you walk me through, in whatever version of this you want to share, like, Cristina receives email for said audition today. Yes. It's due 2 days from now. Can you kind of like walk me through what your process is from getting that email to hitting send on the email or upload or whatever it is?
Man, so it's so different now with COVID.
Yeah.
It's so different now. I used to love going into audition. Obviously, doesn't happen anymore at all.
Yeah.
But I don't let myself stress out too much about the auditions anymore. And it's been a couple of years like that where I'll get it, and sometimes I don't get to do it until like the night before. So I read it to get the context of everything, and I'll do it maybe once, maybe twice. And my new mindset has been, and once I adopted this mindset, like, I stopped stressing over auditions, and I stopped worrying about like booking it. But it's like, hey, this is what I have to give. This is my interpretation of the character. I'm this character for the next 2 minutes, however long it gets to do this audition. If you like it, great. If you don't, like, I'm happy for whoever, with that interpretation you guys chose. But I try not to stress out anymore at all. And I think I don't know if there's another way to do it. Like, I know some people who are like, I spent all day on this audition. And I'm like, but you're not going to do that in the booth.
Mm-hmm. You're
going to do it in 1 or 2 takes. Like, show them, like, this is what you can bring to it. And then just kind of let it go. And you just have, there's a lot of trust, So
well said. And I think so many people, I've definitely been there trying to, like, mine an audition before. And
Yes,
so
me
often
too.
the ones that I'm just like, all right, I got to do this one, and I'm gonna send it. I'm not gonna stress about it. And that's why people always say the saying of like, it's always the ones you don't want that you get, and the ones that you really, really, really want, you don't. I don't know if I said that right. The ones that you don't want, you do get. The ones
Yeah.
that you do want, you don't, because you wind up getting in your own way and start meticulizing over every little nuanced detail.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes harmful towards what the trend and what most productions now are looking for, which is a very grounded performance. I think it's hard
Sure.
to be grounded when you're, you're manufacturing every
Yeah.
single syllable of a line.
Sure. That's what I think. Um, I wasn't thinking. I don't know why I was thinking this yesterday, but I was trying to, because I direct too now, and when I'm listening to auditions, and I see this is why I will never be a great teacher, because I can't describe what it is, but most auditions are like a straight line with some like peaks and valleys like this, and then they end. And a lot sound very similar. But then you have the actors who are just in it, and the audition feels more like this. And those are the ones that book. And I don't know what that is or how to describe it, but I know that doesn't come from like, working things over and over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
I think
breathe.
yes, it's exactly what you said. Is I think, and that's the beauty of acting. I think in a way is there's no real formula to creating good acting. It's kind of being in the moment, being truthful, and something I've been experiencing within most of my successful things is like being in the state of flow. I've talked about that a little bit, which is
Flow.
where, and I think that's kind of what that is just being in flow and not,
Yeah.
and like you're saying, sometimes your first uninhibited read, trusting your gut, and obviously if there's certain things like an accent or homework you got to do, that's stuff you're doing to enforce your or reinforce your audition once you get behind the microphone. But like all those things in place, I think if you can just be uninhibited, not on yourself, not worrying
Yeah.
about this thing being perfect, and just as much as we can as voice actors in our auditions, listening and responding, even if
Yeah.
that's your version of the character you're creating yourself in your head, and
Yeah.
responding as organically and truthfully as possible. I think that's those moments. And if you, as you said, you're directing, you're hearing it, and I'm sure that must help you as an actor too, or it has helped you to get more of these performances that you like when you hear
Yeah.
other people do.
I think it just helped me be less nervous as well in general. Because it's like, well, the director is, they just want the same thing you do.
Yeah.
And they're not, I feel like my approach on directing is, if you're in the room like that, that's because like you're the best choice for the character, and I don't need to worry about over directing you. In the same way, like I don't think you should over audition. Like over directing is a big no for me when I'm directing. It's like I trust you, and I feel like we've gotten some pretty great performances.
From not just being kind of the that's the fine line between a good director and a bad director, I think, is trusting the person you cast and trusting the actor's process, and not being kind of a Oz behind the curtain trying to pull every little string
Yes.
of that performance. Have you had, I know you talked about Wendy, is there been a project specifically where you really enjoyed being directed or working with a specific director? And can you kind of maybe it's as simple as the answer we just talked about, can you vocalize maybe why that was such a good experience?
Oh man. There are different people I love working with for different reasons. And it's, I don't know, like Michael Sorich is so much fun. I just know I'm going to be laughing. The puns are going to go crazy. Todd Habercorn is great because he's not like not meticulously pulling the strings. He just knows like, hey, this wasn't quite right for the context, and let's go again. Like he's very gentle about it, and it's like the workflow never feels like stymied or stifled. It's just he's very good at keeping the pace going, but getting what is needed for the character. Wendy's always amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so many great directors. Tony Oliver, of course, for the reasons that I've said. Oh my goodness. I'd feel bad if I left anybody out. Bob Buchholz.
Oh, yeah.
So much fun. And also, he was also like one of the early people for me too. Was like, hey, do you want to do anime with me? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
I had the same gifted privilege of that with Bob, and he taught me a lot about this industry and business. He is very good at what he does. Speaking now about anime, and there's so many things, so many titles we could talk about. I want to talk a little bit about Hunter x Hunter and
Sure.
Killua for you. Obviously, this is a character that is extremely young. Well, in comparison, you're playing a young boy. What do you think it was about Killua that you connected with? Or was there a process to finding his voice that was different than something else to make this whole experience, you think, connect on such a deep level that it has, and partially the reason for why it's so successful?
So, when I saw Killua, I knew that if I wrote a book on the show, it was going to be him. One, because traumatic backstory, and two, because he's purple. And I don't know what it is, but I always get like the traumatic purple people.
Yeah.
I'm like very confident. It's like, oh, this character has some stuff. And maybe it's because what I shared with you. Mm-hmm. But I know, like, I think it's because they can tell, like, I'm willing to go there. Like, I can get to that place easily. Mm-hmm. Like, I can turn it on and turn it off. And I think that's why I voice so many characters like that, where they're like the ones who have really emotional stories, like Velvet and Homura and Killua, all these characters. Yes.
Yeah, no, and I think I'm with you on that both too.
Oh yeah, do you get all the trauma? Yeah, you have a very traumatic one.
Yeah, I think, and it's that. But if you can materialize that into a healing process for yourself and create great art with it, then I think that's a great output for doing so.
Sure.
What about because I want to just kind of go through some of these characters. I've also one huge fan of Homura as well. I wanted me to make sure I said that. What about in terms of the music you create and some of the opportunities you've had to sing in these roles and your experience with singing? Was this always something that I know you had been putting out videos on YouTube, these dubs of or popular titles of things that were been in anime or video games, and then you were doing your own version or a dub of it. Where did that connection for you to create your own versions and put them on YouTube come from? And then how did that process lead into you working in games and anime and you being a part of that singing process?
Yes. Okay, this is called diversifying your portfolio. So I did it as a fan dub, and I didn't consider myself a singer at all. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I heard it back. I'm like, I think that was pretty good. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, I was like, because I didn't have that. I have a very high-pitched voice even when I'm singing. But I'd heard Kristen Chenoweth singing. I'm like, if she can do it on Broadway, then I can do it for these songs.
Yeah.
So YouTube was new. There was this great show called Haruhi Suzumiya that came out, and I loved the songs. I was like, what if I do English versions? And that was like at a time when that wasn't really a thing. Mm-hmm. And I put a English cover out of a Haruhi song, and it blew up. Like, it was crazy at the time. And in fact, it got so popular that I would find out a couple of years later that the president of Bandai at the time, Bandai of America, he told me when we met, he's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, like, I loved your Haruhi covers. And because I heard yours, I decided, like, we have to do the songs in English in the show. And then he's like, I have a new show called K-On! And I want you to choose any character you want. And you can be that character. I want to cast you as any of the lead characters. And that hasn't happened before. That's never happened since. But, like, I've never and I was still in college. I was basically that age. I was like, oh my God, this Mio girl, she's so cute. I want to be Mio. And that kind of grew. I love doing music so much, and I feel like I've had success. When I was very young, I was told I couldn't do it. Like, I shouldn't be doing covers and putting them on YouTube and so I stopped for a while. And I kind of regret that, because it's become such a thing. I feel like I could have done both, but at the time, like, I was so young, and I had like a PR problem with other actors who, this was a different time. This was a different time. Like, nobody was like me. Like, nobody was like a fan who got their big shot. I had to prove to everybody, like, I am here and I am professional and I can do this. And if that means like, okay, I can't do this, then I won't. So I got back into that very recently. Within the past 5 years, I was with somebody who showed me like, hey, this is the know-how. Like, he gave me the know-how how to do covers and to license them and what to do, how to put them on YouTube. And since then, like, it makes my heart so happy. Like, I love dubbing, but there's something, and I love voice acting, but there's something about just doing it on your own terms. Like, nobody says what I can sing. I choose what I sing. And I just feel so powerful when I'm singing. And I think the biggest thing to come out of that for me so far is Hell of a Boss, where I'm singing with people who are currently on Broadway.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy to me that I sing a song with Alex Brightman, Beetlejuice. It's pretty crazy.
Bryce Pinkerton was one of my teachers in college.
Really?
Yeah, he taught me clown, and I saw him in Gentleman's Guide, and another play he did with Elizabeth Moss. I can't remember the name of it, but he's so talented. Yeah, and you're amazing in that.
They're all so talented. Thank you. I'm really great. I'm just so grateful for these people who, Viv could have cast anyone in LA, and she gave this role to me, and it's never lost on me. Like even with Ladybug as well. Like, we haven't even talked about Ladybug. Oh my God. Like, it's not lost on me. Like, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility, like, to be the best, like, role model I can be, the best person I can be, because, like, I came from nothing. And it's not lost on me, and it puts a lot of pressure. I will be honest. Like, I'm really hard on myself. Like I never want to make anybody feel bad. I never want to, not like have somebody feel like I'm not having a good time when I'm in the booth. And it is a lot of pressure. Yeah. We're all still human, but I'm just doing my best. Like I'm really doing my best.
Yeah. So let's talk about Ladybug quickly, because I want to make sure we touch on that and the tremendous success of that show and that opportunity. What is it? And again, another opportunity for you to work with Bryce Papenbrook. Seven Deadly Sins. You in this kind of emotional friendship relationship. Has that just been everything and you could have wanted in a role, a character where you get to sing and then also be a crime-fighting superhero and kicking butt?
So when I first saw that role, I was convinced I wasn't going to get it because I wanted it so bad. You know that thing? I was like, oh no, I love her. Shoot. Because I saw it and I read the premise and I saw some of the early animation. I was like, this can be this generation's Sailor Moon. This is going to be big. This is going to be huge, and nobody knew it yet. And Ezra will attest that I was always like, this is going to be the biggest show. Like, this is incredible. And I wanted it really bad, and I worked for it. Like, I auditioned and auditioned and auditioned. Each callback got scarier and scarier, but I just knew, like, this is my role. Like, she's me. Nobody will love this character more than I. Like, I just knew it. Nobody will love this show more than I did. So, I don't know. Like, that's kind of a singular experience for me. And it's really important. Like, that show's really important to me. And it's always been, like, kind of the popularity. It's really strange. Like, the popularity was like this at first, and it's so like year by year it would creep up more, and then the pandemic hit, and now it's just this global thing. And I'm going to a lot of conventions right now because there are a lot of people who, this and Hunter x Hunter blew up during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to me to meet people now who are like, I grew up with Ladybug. And I'm like, oh my God, it's totally possible that you grew up with this show.
Yeah.
And I'm like meeting all the little Ladybugs and Cat Noirs who come up to me. And it's just a show that defies age and defies gender. And it's just, oh, yay.
Yes, people
and they let me
cosplay must be
they let me
surreal,
cosplay
right?
her.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
me.
Oh, that's you. My gosh, you look so good.
Thanks. Okay, I have a story about this costume because this costume wasn't part of the show. I found it like as a concept image for like a more grown-up Ladybug that the creator did.
Oh,
and
my
I was
gosh.
like, if I'm gonna cosplay Ladybug, I want it to be, I'm not 14.
Yeah.
I want it to be like a woman version of her, like how she would be if she were my age.
Mm-hmm.
And so I chose this costume. I have it made by a designer daddy who is a great costume maker, great dressmaker. And then last season, Ladybug gets a costume upgrade. And I'm not saying that
you had
because
to do
I
with
did
it?
this, but it's this costume.
Oh my gosh. Can I start the petition right now if they ever want to do a live action like iteration of Miraculous Ladybug that we just get you cast immediately? There's no dispute. Like there's like can we please like you would be so good.
It has to be like a gritty remake. Like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, it'd be so good. So it's so funny. My fiance was babysitting a kid years ago, and she introduced me to Miraculous. She's like, I think you'd like this show. It's like she's like maybe it's a little bit for kiddie. And I remember sitting down and watching. She like forced me to watch the show. She's like, it's on Netflix. You're gonna love it. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty good. And then so that's how I wound up finding out about it before even knowing that you were a part of it years ago. I want to quickly jump to another global phenomenon sensation too before we end up here is Genshin Impact.
Oh my God, we haven't even talked about Genshin Impact.
And also My Hero Academia, obviously too, but I don't know if we'll get to that. Genshin Impact, you voice Bennett, and you also voice Xingqiu, right? Xingqiu. And how did the opportunity get to voice two characters, not only one, in this global sensation?
That's the Cristina Vee way.
Yeah.
I'm always double booking on these big projects, and I love it. So, the story of Genshin Impact. I was working with the director, Chris, on another game called, oh my God, it's a huge game, Fallout. So when we're working on Fallout, he's like, I have this other game. Do you want to read for it? Yes. He's like, all right, they look like anime characters, but read it like you were in the office, because that's what the client wants. True story. So I did, and I read for a few characters, didn't get them. And I was pretty bummed because I knew what it was already. I was like, this is the game that looks like another game. And I want to be in it real bad. So I got a few more times to audition. And then during the pandemic, Bennett and Xingqiu came around, and they were they were both together in the same audition email. Like it was, please read for Bennett and Xingqiu. And I read for them, and I was like, this guy looks like Killua. I'm going to do my Killua voice. I'm like, well, this one, he's kind of, looks like he's probably more right here, and he's probably more proper.
Yeah.
So imagine my surprise when they're like, hey, you were cast as Bennett and Xingqiu.
I love it.
It's like, yes!
Like, is that a mistake or what?
I was like, oh my God, I am here for this. I am here for this. But it just carries on my tradition that I love, being multiple main characters in the same game. Charlotta and Fairy and Grand Blue. Noelle Vermillion was kind of a cheat, but in all her iterations, in Blaze Blue. Oh my goodness. In Tales, like I've now played two protagonists in two different Tales games, and I was in it before. I'm like, I like this trend. This is nice.
Well, that's only an testament to your talent and your chameleon nature to be able to embody like you just did right there. There is just even like a keyword or something about the character, the picture maybe, that you're embodying a completely different thing. And sometimes we don't get pictures, but to be able to take that and just run with that idea is such a talent. And I think if you have that skill, like you clearly do, it's led to so much success.
Oh, and trust your gut. I will tell you another quick story about how I booked Hestu.
Okay.
from Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. So
Yes.
Hestu. I love Breath of the Wild.
So
Favorite game of all time.
I've got a Hyrule sword and shield right behind me. You can't see it, but I do.
So this game, it was very hidden under layers because they didn't want you to know what you're reading for. So they're like, this is a fairy creature. And the way they described it, I was like, that reminds me of a Korok. I'm going to play it like this guy is this character is a Korok. And I didn't know until the day that we recorded that it was the king of Koroks and that I was going to be in a Zelda game. And I was just like, I just feel like it's kind of like this kind of character. And I went with it. So play games and watch the things that you're in because you never know.
Right? That's if you have the opportunity and the privilege to do so, I can only imagine that they're going to be helpful. I want to respect your time, and there were so many things I wanted to talk about here, obviously, but I want to quickly get to a question we have here for you.
Yes.
Juan, if you want to pull that up, and we can and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So this question comes from Casey Curry.
Yes.
It goes, how long would you say is too long for audition session? How many auditions do you do a day or even a week?
Ooh.
When you first started voice acting and threw your hat into the ring versus now, I'm scared of burning myself out too quickly.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you,
I think
Casey.
you just have to listen to your voice, really. I know it takes me a long time to get to auditions because if I'm working all day, my voice is already fatigued. I don't feel like I'm in a creative state.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think you just have to know for yourself. Like, there are certain auditions that I don't do anymore because I just know, like, I don't have a great booking rate with these, and my time is pressed. And I need to go for the things that I need to go shoot for my strengths right now in my career. That's where I'm at. So I think it's just listening to yourself. When I was starting off, auditions were few and far between, of course. But now, I have a great agency. I love Atlas Talent Agency. They have been amazing to me. And they send me a ton of auditions. I think this week I recorded, and it's Tuesday, so I've recorded maybe 20 characters. And also partly because I'm going to Hawaii, so I need to get everything done soon.
Get them done.
Yeah. But, yeah, you just got to listen to your heart.
Quick rapid fire too for me before we let you go here. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. We've learned so much. Is there a series?
Yes.
My pleasure.
Persona.
You'd want to be a part of the Persona series. Is
Yes.
there a song you would like to cover that you haven't covered yet?
The Story by Brandi Carlile.
Okay. Is there a genre of acting that you haven't explored yet that you would like to?
Mocap. Why haven't I done mocap?
If anybody is listening, anybody in the business of mocap, and I'm honestly, I can't believe that I just heard that. You need to cast Cristina like right now.
Please. I'm working on it. Gonna take classes. That's my next thing.
Me too. I've gotten close, but I haven't got one to do
I've
by myself
gotten close.
either.
I was down to three girls.
Same thing.
Yes, for a huge life-changing project.
Yes.
Down to 3 girls, but she probably had the training. I didn't have the training. Anyways,
Same
that's
deal.
why I'm gonna get the training. Oh my
Yes.
God, we can talk after.
Let's do that. And is there a something that hasn't existed yet, an anime, video game, anything in entertainment media that hasn't been adapted into something that you could be a part of that you would love to be a part of that hasn't yet?
Oh man. Interesting. My answer, this has been done, but I love Utena, and I love the original voice actors for Utena, so I wouldn't want to replace them or anything, but if they rebooted Utena and had new characters, I'd want to be one of those.
Awesome. Cristina, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
you.
it. This has been so insightful. I'm so happy to finally get to meet you face to face through the digitized versions that we have
Yeah,
existing
me too.
today.
Thank you. Thanks for managing my crazy schedule this month.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and I'm just so happy that we got to finally sit down. Everybody, Cristina Vee, thank you.
Thank you.
Could that have been cooler? I don't think it could have. I'm so happy we got to talk with Cristina, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you she's been an inspiration for kind of so much of the work that I've done. I remember she was directing something. It was when I first moved to LA, and I saw it was a game, and I think it came out I don't remember the title. And River City something. And I remember I remember it because I remember seeing her name as the casting director and director. I was like, what? Cristina? I was like, I'm going to have the opportunity to work with her on something? Like, that's so crazy. And I could not be more... I could not be more impressed that she is not only the real deal behind the microphone, but also in real life as a human. She's so kind and generous, and you can just tell how down to earth she is, and working her butt off to get to where she is. It just reminds me so much of my story. I feel like we'd get along. I feel like we might get along. I'll have to definitely take her up on my own offer of saying, let's take a mocap class together. Can we please, if there's anybody out there who can, like, put a tweet out there, get Cristina Vee in mocap, like, in addition to the Ladybug live action, if that ever does happen, in, like, a really dark, gritty, I know that's been done before, right? They've taken things and made them darker in the live action adaptations, but mocap, people, please, gosh, kick my butt as that Ladybug superhero. I mean, not that I'm much of a threat. I'm extremely not a fighter at this point in my life. I would just listen. Whatever you gotta do, just don't hurt me or make it so I can't work anymore. That's literally the life motto I live by at this point. If something is dangerous, like my buddy, we didn't get to talk about it, and we said we were going to. She's going to Hawaii. I recently went to Hawaii. My buddy wanted me to do like skydiving, and I was like, there is the possibility that I could die doing this. I know that's very safe, and I'm not saying people shouldn't do skydiving, but for me, the danger is more that I will die from a heart attack jumping out of the plane. So I try not to do things that'll create that type of scenario. But I wish Cristina luck and lots of fun in her convention route. If you aren't following her, like, what are you doing? Her social media following is astounding. She's got like over 1 million followers on TikTok. And go see her at a convention. I think if you're going to be in Hawaii, I don't know when this is going to release, but if you did see her, awesome. But if not, check out her convention schedules, because she's definitely somebody I think well worth the opportunity to express your gratitude to. She's so receiving of it as well. I think a lot of people aren't good with compliments, and she just genuinely seems to appreciate it. We didn't get to talk about, like, so many things. My Hero Academia, Pino. She got to work in the newest My Hero Academia movie. We'll have to have her back. And then maybe we can finally use the term friend of the show. Right? I always thought that was such a corny thing podcasts do. Oh, it's friend of the show. It's like, yeah, that works in, like, talk shows, I guess, where they're over 100. I mean, maybe this will be a podcast that exists for over thousands of episodes. I hope so. I really hope so. Guys, Cristina, an absolute treasure that we have in this industry, that we are gifted to be existing in the same time she is working as an actor doing voiceover. Check out her music covers, please. She did a cover of Bluebird, Simple and Clean, Candy Store from the musical Heathers, Husavik from the movie with Will Ferrell. Eurovision. All by myself. I don't know if that's the song that she did, but in this great big world before me, written down to someone else. Allie loves that song and the thing, and then they're beautiful songs, beautifully sang, and I don't think she has this in her cover, but then all of a sudden it'll be like this beautiful melody, and then you hear Will Ferrell go, ah. It's hysterical and beautiful at the same time. And she also did a cover of Attention, Charlie Puth, with Nate Wants to Do Battle. So check those out. Follow her on Spotify and all that stuff. If you have a question you would like to ask one of our guests, you can send in a video to info@pointsofexperiencepodcast.com. We'll feature you on the show. Or you can simply write in a question as well, which is a lot of the stuff we've been featuring. Follow us on all social medias. Points of Experience on TikTok, POX Podcast on the rest of them. My YouTube, Paul Castro Jr. is where the Points of Experience podcast will live. Spotify, iTunes, all that great stuff. Thank you for sticking around. And until the next one, everybody, thank you for watching the show. And I truly cannot wait to hear you all very soon if voice acting is one of your pursuits as a profession. Take care now. Bye-bye then.